Grayson, obviously very exciting news today for us, probably for you this morning waking up. Elimination Chamber in Australia next year. First major event in Australia in 5 years. How exciting is that for you, for the company, and what was your first reaction when you found out the news?
My first reaction was finally, because I've heard whispers, and I think a lot of people have, about this Australian show for a few years now. It was like every year there was like little things happening. They wanted to get back to Australia. It's such a fun market for them, and there's so many big WWE fans in Australia, but it just didn't work out. So waking up this morning is kind of like, it's finally happening, and not just any event. Like the Elimination Chamber, a premium live event, basically sets up WrestleMania. Like this is probably the most important event that Australia could almost get outside of WrestleMania, which I did want. I was trying to get WrestleMania. I told John Cena, I told England I was getting WrestleMania. This is a pretty good second prize. So I'm buzzing, and finally the Australian fans have been waiting 4 years to finally get there and see live WWE again. I think the Australian superstars in WWE are ready to go too.
You look at some of the shows over the past 12 months since things have opened up after the pandemic. Obviously, a big show in Wales last year, Money in the Bank in London, the Saudi Arabia shows, and Backlash in Puerto Rico as well. You look at other companies running big stadium shows. It must be nice for you and for Rhea and Bronson and others to know that Australia is right in the mix to hold big events like this.
Very much so, and I think it's been proven like recently that the Australians turn up for live events. We had the UFC in Sydney last week. I think it starts at like 8 a.m. because of the time difference. You got people in the door 8 a.m. having a beer, ready to watch the show. And even Perth specifically, like they had the Volkanovski fight recently. That crowd was insane. They're singing Volk to the ring. They're behind Volk every single round. Like the Australian crowds are different, and they're there to support their own, but they're also there to have a good time. They want to enjoy the show, and they want to be part of the show. And I think it's something where WWE knows that. WWE knows how good the Australian crowds are, and they wanted to give a reward in a lot of ways. Like, it's been a long time. Like, here's your reward. Here's the Elimination Chamber, like pretty much the biggest show leading up to WrestleMania. I think it's something where the Australian fans are getting rewarded for their patience for WWE coming out.
If we look back to the last big premium live event, pay-per-view, whatever you want to call it, in Australia, was obviously before you were signed with the company down at the MCG. Did you go to that show?
Yeah, I did. I actually travelled down. There was a MCW show the night before, went to that, then went to the WWE show, and it was just like a situation of there was a few of us wrestlers who sat together and kind of watched it and were like, imagine being on this. And at the time, it was kind of a pipe dream. I hadn't talked to anyone from WWE. There was no WWE on my radar, but in my head, I was like, I could see myself here. And now it's kind of crazy 4 years later that's going to happen. And I'm going to make sure I'm in a prominent position on that show. I got 6 months to prepare. I don't care what I have to do. I'll sit in the gym 12 hours a day, whatever it takes to make sure when I get to Australia, like that's going to be my show.
You mentioned potentially being and hopefully being a prominent part of Elimination Chamber next year. It was only earlier this year you were in a private suite. I saw you at SoFi Stadium, mouthing off to a few fans down below. How important for that would be, and how much pride would that feel you to go from being in that position in only April of this year to potentially being a potential headliner on a stadium show in your own country less than 12 months later?
Yeah, it was funny that Mania that we went to last year. Like, for people who don't know, the NXT roster who are at WrestleMania, we get like a little box suite to sit together and watch it, which is a really cool experience because you've got like basically the future of the company watching the president of the company on the biggest stage. And I sat there with Carmelo Hayes, who, in my opinion, is one of the best in the entire world right now. And we said to each other, like, we're going to be on this next year. It wasn't a situation of, oh, wow, can you imagine? Like, it was me and him telling each other, like, this is where we're going. And we have to enjoy this moment because the next time we're here, it's going to be a different situation. So I fully believe that. And whether I'm on WrestleMania or not, like that, we'll see what happens. But for me, it almost means more to be on this Australian card because for a long time I've thought about this, like to wrestle in front of my home country, in front of my friends, my family, people I've worked with in the past, like that's a huge thing. And for 12-year-old Grayson, who watched Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair at the Sydney Superdome, like being able to perform in Perth in the biggest stage, like that means everything. I feel in some ways like this show is my WrestleMania moment in a lot of ways.
Are you looking forward to, hopefully getting a different kind of reaction from the Aussie fans to what you're probably used to week in the US?
So the thing is, I'm me. So wherever I am, I'm going to be myself. But I think it's a situation where the Australians enjoy that more. They enjoy that I'm real. And I don't know how it's going to be, but the thing is, when I go to Australia, I've never been that person who, I'm a bit of a bad guy in America, and then I go back to Australia and I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I left. That's not me. I'm not doing that classic trope. Like, I love Australia. I say it every day. Like, I want to perform for the Australians. And I don't know. I've never really performed in front of cheers in a long time. So maybe it's going to be confusing for me. Hey, maybe they won't cheer me. You never know. You never know who I'm going to be up against. Could be some legend of the industry that the Australian crowds are loving seeing. But either way, they're going to be loud. They're going to be into the show. And I'm excited to see what that is.
Just, I guess, from a broader perspective, what do you think an event like this will do for the business in Australia? I know you still have close ties to, some promotions out here. What do you think it will do for some guys here? And do you think it'll be a driving factor like it was for you in 2018?
I think it's going to be massive because you've already got like WWE's on binge now in Australia, so people are watching it more. There's so many shows. You have so many Australians. Myself, Rhea, Bronson, Indy. You got Duke in NXT killing it. Like, there's so many Australians who are ready, and I think this show is just going to open that door further for hopefully more Australians. Because the thing is, when the Australians turn up here, they succeed. And they, if anything, exceed expectations. Look at Rhea right now. I've said this before. I think arguably she's the biggest star in the entire business. If you've ever seen her walk into a venue before a show, doesn't matter who else is walking around, they're chanting Mommy. And there's so much talent in Australia now who just need their eyes on them. And I think it's a very exciting period where this is just going to bring more eyes. And all of a sudden, WWE's going to realise, wow, these Australians are really good. Maybe we need more. And that's what I think part of my job is. I didn't leave Australia and forget about it. When I came here, my job was to make sure that we could get more and force our way under these cards. So I think this is huge, not just for WWE fans in Australia who get to see the show, but for the wrestlers in Australia who are working so hard and striving to be the best and doing everything they can to get noticed. I think this is the time where they're going to get noticed.
Just, I guess, for you personally, it's obviously been a pretty whirlwind year. You've had, an injury, sounded like a reasonably serious injury as well. You had the draft, you've had the call-up, and now you've had the opportunity to do some pretty cool things on SmackDown as well. Did you find the whole injury situation daunting? Did you have any doubts start to creep in because it was at such a crucial time for yourself?
The moment the injury happened, it was definitely daunting. And I think I've spoken before about the emotion in that moment before the draft. Just had a great match with Carmelo Hayes for the NXT Championship. It was what I thought was my last match in NXT. All the emotion and that type of stuff. Once I got that out, I just changed it to focus because, I pay attention to a lot of guys like Kobe Bryant, David Goggins, those type of guys where I just saw it as another hurdle and I didn't want to let it hold me back. And I thought, if I can push through this and still be on the main roster and still be successful, then I can do anything. And I think that was the hardest I ever worked in my life. And I kind of, in some ways, I think the injury helped because I got the talk show, the Grayson effect, which is huge right now. I'm having so many big stars, and maybe if I didn't get hurt, that wouldn't have happened. And it's just been something I'm pushing through. Even now, I don't think I'm 100%. I think I'm maybe 85%, which is frustrating. But for me, I just see it as potential. If this is what I'm doing at 85%, imagine in 6 months in Australia when I'm 100%, everything feels good, and then I'm getting to perform. I'd be really worried if I stood across from Grayson Waller at Elimination Chamber because it's not going to go well.
I've heard you speak in other interviews after you did have that injury about how you worked even harder in the gym after you got over, the initial disappointment or however you did react to it. How long did it take for that mindset shift to kind of kick in? And how important is, the aesthetic side of the business for you?
It's a situation where 2 days after I broke my leg, I was in the gym. I had my crutches, I had it all booted up. But for me personally, I could either sit back and cry and complain and feel sorry for myself. That would get me nowhere. If I had done that, I wouldn't be here right now. I know that for sure. It was a situation where it was if you have something that goes wrong, you have a difficult hurdle, you've got to force your way through it. And in 2023, not many people are willing to do that. It's never been easy to be great, and I'm great, and there's a reason for that. But I pushed through it now. I'm feeling like this is me at my best. What was the second part of the question? Sorry, brother.
Just like I guess just the mindset shift and
Oh, yeah, and then this, yeah.
aesthetic side of the business as well, and how important is going to be on live TV every week to make sure you're looking at your best.
Yeah, of course. And I think the mindset stuff is more important than the physical stuff, because a lot of people in today's day and age with phones and all this other stuff, it's so easy to just be chill and lazy and get through life. But there's some real savages who still exist. And as I said, it's never been easy to be great if you're willing to put yourself through these things. So I have a really good group of people around me, both people at home in Australia and the people here in WWE that I'm kind of close to, that we all have the same mindset. We're all chasing the same goals. And aesthetically, like, it's easy to get motivated to go to the gym when you got to take your shirt off on TV every week. Like, it's hard to be lazy when you have to do that. And now, even on the main roster, I'm walking past Bobby Lashley every week. I'm teaming with Austin Theory. Like, these dudes are in peak physical condition, not just WWE physical condition, but like worldwide physical condition. So it's pushing me further too, because for me personally, like, I'm a cross country runner. I love long distance stuff, but that's only getting me so far. I've been a little weed. So like now I'm like changing my diet, doing all these type of things where I know where my limit is, and I know I need to get better at that. So talking to a guy like Theory about diet and working out and all those type of things, it's only going to benefit me going forward.
Since you have come up to the main roster, you've obviously had opportunities to share the screen and share the stage with some pretty big names: John Cena, Logan Paul, Cody Rhodes, Edge. These are elite level talent, not just in WWE but outside of WWE as well. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned through those experiences so far?
There's been a lot, man. Especially like from each of those guys are also so good at what they do, but also very different with the way they kind of think about the business and the way they operate. And for me personally, I think I've said before, like, I'm not the one backstage sitting with them, asking for advice and all those type of things. My way of learning is being out there with them and learning kind of on the job type of thing. And the one thing I'm realizing, like, and it's something that I think takes time, is just the way they can control the crowd. It's like, it's hard to explain, but it's just like a feeling that you have when those people get in the ring. I've been in the ring with a lot of people. When Cody gets in the ring, when John gets in the ring, there's just a vibe about them. It's the way they carry themselves. Like, people call them a superstar, but even if you didn't know who they were, if they walked in a room, you would know they're a superstar. You would know they're someone. So it's me trying to work out what that is, how they get it, and trying to implement that into what I do and the way I carry myself. And I don't think it's something you can learn overnight, but it's something I'm going to get.
Aside from the lessons, obviously being given the opportunity to work with these big names in the business, and also do stuff with the Philadelphia Eagles and promote WrestleMania next year. How's it feel to have that trust from the company to be put in those positions pretty early in your run on the main roster?
I don't take it lightly. Like, I know these are huge opportunities that people would love to have, and people who've been in WWE for a while don't get. So any opportunity there is to do anything extra for the WWE, I'm happy to do it. I'm a company guy. Recently, as you said, I got to go to the Philadelphia Eagles, which for me, I'm an Eagles fan. Like, I'm at training camp. I'm meeting Jason Kelsey, Jordan Mailata. This is cool. Went to a Cubs game, got taken around, got to throw the first pitch. Upcoming, I'm doing all these campus tours where we're going to different colleges, talking about like the NIL program and WWE. Like, for a sports fan from Australia who loves American sports, this is a dream for me. So all these extra things I get to do, this isn't work. Like, I get to fly to this college, get to see the stadium, meet some of the athletes, talk to them about WWE. This is amazing. So for me, I'm just enjoying every second of it, but also it's my opportunity to give back. WWE has given me so much. They've given me a platform that, as an Australian, not many of us get. So it's kind of a beneficial relationship for both of us. They know I'm going to go out there and I'm going to do exactly what they need me to do. I know I'm going to go out there and I'm going to have a good time. Like, this is all a dream that I'm living right now.
Just one on social media. You're someone that likes to use it. I think I've spoken to you about it before. You've had some interactions lately with, The Rock, Kathy Kelly. I saw you put up a cheeky little photo with a Pepsi can a few weeks ago as well. There is a fine line that comes with social media. Do you find it hard ever not to cross that line, or you're pretty comfortable walking across it?
Yeah, it is a difficult line, and a lot of people aren't willing to play with it. But I think social media is so important now to get your name out there and get people talking about you and get people talking about the show. A lot of wrestlers will say, I'll do anything to make it. You look at their social media and they're just reposting their match graphic or reposting something a fan said about them. Like, there's no creativity. You can really have some fun on social media with the audience, depending on who you are and kind of who you portray. For me personally, like, I love walking that line because I think that's where the most fun is. And there is some danger in that of going too far. Like, I never want to come across as like being mean to certain people or anything like that. I'm just trying to poke fun, that type of thing. But I have some real ones around me. If there's ever a tweet that I'm like, this is right on the edge, I'll send it to them first and just go, what do you think? You know, type of thing. But it's all supposed to be lighthearted. It's all supposed to be in fun. We're all promoting different things. And also, like, a lot of fans, especially on Twitter, people are stupid. People are dumb. They don't know what's real. I love playing with that because, you know, you see all these like news articles from, you know, terrible journalists, not yourself, journalists who don't know what they're doing. You go out and put it out. They can write whatever they want. There's no blowback if it's not real or anything like that. So I like to play with that too. Like, if you can just go out and write whatever you want, well, Grayson Waller's going to write whatever he wants and have some fun with that. And if you want to talk about Kathy Kelly, 100%, she DM'd me, okay? She's online. She's doing interviews saying she didn't. She DM'd me, okay? I stand by that.
I hope that does work out for you.
Fingers crossed, mate. I need a green card. I'm trying to get it.
You mentioned Austin Theory before. He's another guy that's had some pretty big opportunities. He's still a young guy. I think he's the same age as me, which is pretty crazy to think about how long he's been in WWE already. Obviously, last week sharing the ring with The Rock. You've kind of worked up a bit of a tag team with him on SmackDown. Do you think that's something that could be permanent and you guys could really push each other to go up to that next level?
I think very much so. You know, Theory's had similar opportunities to me. Even he had them a little earlier, and he's killing it. Like that, he went in there against The Rock and competed, which is not many people can say they did that. I think a lot of people online recently, like, Theory's become like the guy that they like to say they don't like or they don't see potential in him, and they're just idiots. I'd be jealous too because he's so young, he's so talented, he's so good looking, he's in shape, he's everything these people wish they were. And I think that's a similarity between me and Austin. We have a lot in common. We enjoy working together, and if there's opportunities, if he needs some help against The Rock, I've got no problem going out there and helping him, and I know he'd do the same for me, but I think there's something there between the two of us.
And just lastly, mate, to circle back to Elimination Chamber, we know how big this is going to be for Australian fans and for Australian wrestlers and for WWE as a whole. If there was one person that you would like to get in the ring with at this event, I know dream matches are such a cliche thing to talk about, but is there someone you would love to square off against, you know, in front of 60, 70,000 Aussies that'll probably be right behind you?
I think for me, there isn't a person for this answer. I think for me, it's about the moment. And I think one thing that I haven't done here in WWE is win a championship. My whole time in NXT, I had opportunities at everything, and I just couldn't succeed. But I think this is a situation, if you give me a championship match in front of my home crowd, like, I'm not losing. I'm bringing out that golden shoe. I'm doing that golden shoe in front of 70,000 people in Perth. So for me, it doesn't matter who the champion is, whether it's the United States champion, whether it's the world champion, whatever it is, like, that's what I want. I want the biggest test of my career. I want to be put in there against the best. Very similar to Volk. I don't care who it is. I want the best. I want them across the ring, and I want to prove myself in front of my friends and family.